Hey friends, David Miller. I am no longer a Phoenix, Arizona multimedia artist. I am a Los Angeles multimedia artist speaking to you from my home studio in South Bay, LA area, San Pedro, right next to Long Beach. I moved here in the end of summer, early September 2022. It was on the tail end of 20 years in Arizona. Prior to that, 20-some years in Omaha, Nebraska, which is where I'm originally from. And it's been a whole new life and a whole new experience since I've been here. Very different from what I imagined being an artist and educator in Los Angeles would be like. LA is one of those places that is legendarily loved and hated and despised and mocked and fantasized about. I know from my experience in Arizona that I had many friends who were models and photographers, pretend we were LA artists because it's the biggest metropolis on the West Coast and certainly like the hub of the creative industries, a lot of the fashion and photography, filmmaking, animation, you name it, music comes out of Los Angeles. Bands from all over the planet come and record albums in LA, and it's also considered like this big old hellhole that has a lot of trash and this is not my opinion, but it's something that's said is like there's a lot of scary homeless people and the cops are all crooked and just everyone's fake and phony and they're clout chasers and they're, scammers galore. Everything I mentioned I think is in every big city there is. So like I kind of take that with a grain of salt, but I felt like making a video for the channel because one, it's been a long time since I made a video. It's been almost a year. And I'm getting back into it. Also, I'll be starting kind of like a new partnership business with the main co-creator I found in Los Angeles, and that'll be its own thing. That'll probably be its own YouTube channel and all. But I just kind of like wanted to describe the goods and the bads about being a creative in LA. And this isn't meant for the people who actually live here. This is meant for anyone out there who thinks that there might be a better future for them if they were a part of a larger city or a larger creative community. And specifically the Los Angeles community, because I want to dispel some of the myths and also like the benefits. I want to let you know like what's the good news about being here. First off, I moved by myself, so I have family that still lives in Arizona. I thought I would see them more frequently than I did, but because my kids are in high school and I also happen to be a high school teacher here, it hasn't quite worked out that way. During the summer months, I'm sure that they'll be spending a lot of time here because Los Angeles has some of the best weather in the world, definitely compared to Phoenix, Arizona, which has some of the worst weather in the world in the summer months. I mean, it's fun to go swimming for the first month and then it gets really punishing, and my experience in Arizona is that the creative community just dies. Everything dies by August. Nobody's in a good mood. People just want to sleep or hide. It's just so brutal and punishing to be in that kind of environment. And if you're not used to a hot desert environment, imagine Chicago winter or something. Like anywhere where the weather is constantly just a force that battles you. It's very difficult to stay positive and creative long term that way. So I mentioned I have a job as a high school teacher. This is something that I tried to do in Arizona since 2009. Photo art teacher, like it was too difficult to get a position there. There never were positions available. Economy collapsed and all sorts of things went wrong. But once I decided my area, San Pedro, which is like smaller community, a little more Mediterranean because it has the harbor. We have the cruise ships and the boats to Catalina Island and things like that. Once I decided on my area and I got my apartment, I almost instantly got a job as a photo teacher at a private school. So I kind of knew my choice was not going to be as risky as somebody who comes here and wants to be, you know, like a famous actress and they don't have any job opportunities except for like working in a cafe or waiting tables or whatever it is until they think they're going to get their big break. I have a good job and I continue to have a good job. In fact, the equipment I'm using right now is as a result of having that good job. When I came here, I knew a lot of people from my previous 10 years of trips to LA. Actually, some people I grew up with in Nebraska, models, makeup artists, designers, actresses. And as it turns out, I've seen a lot of them, maybe like once or twice, but it's been 6 months. And you know, the thing about people, I don't want to say anyone's flaky, but we are busy and distance. If somebody lives 10 miles away, in Arizona, that's nothing. In Los Angeles, it's considered like a burden, 10 miles. So there's a lot of people I haven't seen very much, but the new people that I've met, the new people that kind of like ingratiated with the life that I wanted and sort of like the changes I wanted to make and how I did my photography and my artwork. That has been the biggest benefit of all. Definitely, Los Angeles has its share of people with big ideas and, you know, what have you done for me lately kind of attitude. I made sure living in San Pedro and you know, with my experience in Long Beach area, like that's not the way it is down here. Maybe in like West Hollywood or some of the other places where it's considered like flashy to be out. That's the way things roll. I picked this place based on recommendations from people who are closer to my age, friends that said, you know, Long Beach is actually pretty chill. And Pedro was a place I had been before, dropping off my ex-wife and daughter to a cruise, and I thought this is a really interesting, unique place. It definitely looks and feels like its own environment. We have cliffs, we have this large Korean friendship bell, we have these really cool bridges. I live right next to a marina and there's not a lot of traffic. All the stores I go into, people ask my name, they introduce themselves, and they're so friendly and so down to earth and so cool that I think it was kind of destiny to make this particular area. That said, the people that I interact with creatively don't necessarily live down here, but they also are people from other places who came here to fulfill their dreams, as a lot of people do from LA. And you know, I don't want to get like mystical about things, but people find each other, and when they vibe, like it's a good thing. The problem with Arizona, when I would find people I'd vibe with, is, as I said, there's always a point of the year where it just dies. Like, that was my experience. I lived there 20 years. I tried, you know, all kinds of different creative ventures, businesses, signing on to a fashion house and having a studio down there. And literally, when the weather turns to hell, everything dies and people's spirits die there, and it crushes friendships. It's just the place. The place isn't evil, but you put that hand in hand with any small community where people don't have a reason to do their creative outlet, you know, where when things get discouraging, like maybe they're not making money or they can't book shows or whatever it is, they quit and just go back to a regular job. It's a little different here. I mean, things are more expensive, but I know that my photography, my animation, music I make, whatever it is, whatever creative venture I put my brain to, comic book making, there's some value in it. And the reason why I know there's value in it, not just self-belief, but all these industries around here. Warner Brothers, DC Comics, Pixar, Universal, independent stuff. the creative community has more people, a higher percentage of the LA population working in it than I think anywhere else on earth. So I know that creativity has value. I know that being kind of like out of the box has value. Being unique, which is something that I've always, advocated for. I never wanted to be an artist that made art that fit a pre-existing mold of a community. And by that I mean, if you tour the Southwest and you go to like Ruidiso, New Mexico, or Sedona, Arizona, or something like that, like these are very pretty communities, but you go in the galleries and you see the roadside art and it's all stuff for tourists. It literally is just what the community can sell on a consistently regular basis to people who are not really invested in the community, and they're not looking for unique things. They're looking for tchotchkes and souvenirs. In LA, I can find my tribe so easily because there's so many tribes. I can find people who have the drive to continue to stay creative and go for it even when things get hard, because that's why they moved here. That's why they came from, wherever else in the country or the world they came to LA to chase their dream, and they weren't gonna let their parents telling them this place sucks. They weren't gonna let traffic stop them. They weren't gonna let, all those things that discourage people in the small towns, that discourage people that I knew were so creative and like had so much potential in Arizona, and they just choked and they just died on the vine because they weren't supported by a community, they weren't supported by friends, they weren't supported by family. They were fighting an uphill battle with no help, no reason. So yes, these are all good things about Los Angeles. I found the job that I could never get in Arizona. I found a community that I love. I found a co-creator that 6 months in, everything's going great, and we're building new and better things at every turn. And now it's time to talk about the downsides of LA. So I moved here with a pickup truck that I got last year. I was really proud to have it, first pickup truck I ever had. A couple months into my life here, I started shooting a lot of bands and shows, and that meant, late nights in places like Silver Lake, Glendale, and really quickly my truck got broken into. I lost some of my studio lights, and then a month later, right after I fixed that window, I hit a pothole on a freeway and it just wiped out the truck. So, car problems, legendary in LA, things are really expensive. Arizona doesn't have very much, at least the Phoenix Metro doesn't have very much in the way of potholes. And I certainly never had a vehicle broken into since 2002, 2003 in Arizona. But when I was on social media talking about these things, I heard from other people who are like, oh yeah, I got my car stolen, I got my truck stolen. Like, they tell you that you need a vehicle in LA to get around because it's so wide, and it is true. For me to visit like my creative partner, she lives 24 miles away, but we've been able to make it work because I started using public transport. I used Turo, which is like an Airbnb for cars. And when I started checking out these smaller cars, electric cars, things that are like easier to park, I found actually my lifestyle in LA improved greatly. Not to mention that the gas mileage really benefited. I probably save more money not having a vehicle and only occasionally using like a non-gas guzzling vehicle than I did when I had a truck here. So, that was something to learn, and I'll be switching to a motorcycle very soon. Just got my permit to do so, and I think that's like the smaller vehicles, if you can manage it, are the way to go in Los Angeles. And in the case of like, well, how do you transport gear? How do you transport all this other stuff? It's like you all of us can adapt our lives. Maybe you don't use gear if you're that kind of creator, or you have your gear in a safe studio space, or a thing that I'm a big advocate for is rent it when you need it, and if you have a paid job, you just include that in the cost of the job. And that's going to save you a lot of worry about spaces and stuff. Let that be someone else's concern, and when you get employed to do certain things, you just tack that in on the invoice. Yeah, I would say that my experience so far has been wonderful, definitely helpful for my soul and my mentality. By the time I was done in Arizona, I was done, and I was melted down, and it really felt like there was no future. I feel like a lot of the people who come here from other places, they advance as far as they can in Ohio, in Michigan, wherever, and then it's like, what's the next step? And for me, having invested over 20 years in my art career, in my creative career, I've gone as far as I could, certainly in Nebraska, certainly in Arizona, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen here in Los Angeles. I hope that these videos are going to be as much a diary as they are like creative advice. We're still going to talk about INFPs and personalities, Myers-Briggs. We're still going to talk about gear, technology, tutorials, all that stuff. I'm going to be able to make them on a consistent basis because I have my nice home setup and I have equipment I can use from my school, so it's just a matter of turning things on and filming. But yeah, welcome to Primordial Creative 2.0 in Los Angeles, stroke the San Pedro area. If you want to come by and say hi, drop me a line. I'm happy to meet anyone for coffee here, and the future feels really good. And if you're a creator, I think you have to be positive about opportunities, the future, to stay fresh and keep going. So hope you're all doing well out there. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.